Russia, Iran, and China are using artificial intelligence tools as they increase their effort to sway the American population ahead of the November election. That's according to intelligence officials in the US. As AI advances at a rapid pace, so does its threat on democracy and the elections. Throughout the US polls in the race, we've seen various incidents of AI use. Vishal Vivek reports.
The scourge of election interference hangs over the upcoming US election. US intelligence officials have said in their latest report that Russia, Iran, and China are using artificial intelligence tools in their effort to sway the American population ahead of the presidential election on November 5. The report says Russia has generated the most AI content related to the election and has done so across all four mediums: text, images, audio, and video. The AI operation is consistent with Russia's broader efforts to boost Donald Trump's candidacy and denigrate Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party, including through conspirational narratives, the report added. Intelligence officials said Russia was behind a viral staged video in which an actress falsely claimed that Harris had injured her in a hit-and-run car accident. This video went on to garner millions of views. The report says that clips of Harris's speeches were also doctored. According to the intelligence report, Iran targeted US voters on polarizing issues such as the Israel-Gaza conflict. Earlier this month, the US Justice Department charged 2 Russian nationals and seized more than 30 website domains involved in what is alleged is a Russian government-linked influence campaign in an attempt to manipulate the 2024 presidential election. The report is hardly surprising, as past intelligence assessments had found that Moscow tried, through influence campaigns, to help Trump win in 2016 against Hillary Clinton and in 2020 against President Joe Biden. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report for NDTV Word.
Let's get you more on that now. We're joined by Glenn Carle. He is a national security and foreign policy expert and former CIA clandestine services officer. We're also joined by Alexis Ahmed. He is a Cyberthreat analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here this morning. Glenn, let me come to you first. There are worries about Iran and China using AI to target the current US elections, but according to intelligence officials, Russia is the most prolific of the lot. How exactly do these Russian-backed entities use AI? For instance, manipulating Harris's speeches using simple editing tools along with AI. If you could give us a few more examples like that to really bring home the point, please.
Well, that's an obvious example, and one that is used a lot, but is, I think, probably the less insidious and dangerous kind, as the example given a moment ago about the false reports of Kamala Harris being involved in a hit-and-run accident. Those things will continue. More insidious, though, is to create an almost infinite number of voices that appear to be legitimate from different walks of life in America, say, if we're targeting America. So you might have someone who presents him or herself as someone coming from the south of the United States, or being a Black American or an Indian American, or representing gun rights or gun opponents, and just expressing an opinion that goes into then the social media discourse that ever so slightly reshapes the debate and the impressions, the consciousness of the people who receive that particular tweet or Facebook posting or any sort of kind of social media expression. And that then changes what Americans think about an issue, then a candidate, then a party, and then the election. The Russians are past masters at not necessarily undermining Kamala Harris, say, in this current context, but in fomenting discord that undermines the Americans' belief in respect for participation in democracy itself. And as the society becomes more in turmoil and the system more doubted, all of that redounds to Russia's benefit. That's the kind of thing that AI can do hundreds of thousands, millions of times more effectively, literally, than traditional intelligence officers who would actually write a message and try to plant it.
Okay. All right. Alexis, now, if I spot a video saying that Kamala Harris was involved in a hit and run, the video that Glenn just mentioned, the first thing that I would perhaps do is to cross-check on a reputed news website. Aren't users really sophisticated enough to spot the fakes from the lies, or are we giving ourselves way too much credit?
Well, I think it's obviously something that's becoming more important. With the advent of AI and deepfakes, I think deepfakes are sort of the key, one of the primary factors in this. Another thing to understand is, or something that can possibly make it easier to detect, is understanding the strategies sort of imposed by these threat actors or nation state backed groups. It's very important to understand that based on what we've seen and multiple intelligence reports, that one of the strategies, again, augmenting deepfakes, is sort of the automation of this disinformation. And one of the flaws in the strategy is sort of based around how it is sort of employed. So what that means is, it's not enough to just have these videos posted. What they're also employing are, vast amounts of bots, social media bots, that of course also have, fake images or AI generated images. But that's sort of a very telling or a very important factor to consider. So I think to answer your question more directly, one of the things to look out for is these, rather random spurs of activity, or seeing certain trends pick up out of nowhere almost, and sort of verifying or analyzing whether the similarities in the posts being made, the hashtags being used, so on and so forth. So again, if you don't see it from any reputable source and you're sort of seeing similar sorts of accounts with similar posting styles, that's a very good indication that something's not right.
Glenn, just a month ago, OpenAI banned a bunch of ChatGPT accounts after they found that foreign groups were using ChatGPT to sow division amongst US voters. To think that here is a tool made by an American company now being used to turn Americans against each other, a tool that many of us also use, how is a simple app like ChatGPT used to spread this disinformation and lies?
Well, as in the ways that I touched upon, and I know for a fact many ways that I don't know about, because AI is not my personal expertise. But what you do is, it doesn't matter if the likes of the three of us who are talking identify something as suspicious and then debunk it. That's good. That's necessary. We must do that. But the simple fact of introducing something that is false or debatable or different into the debate changes the frame of reference. And it is unfortunately a psychological truth that a lie repeated frequently comes to be believed. And even if it is not believed, psychologists have shown us that even if you know the true answer and you hear a false answer, the way you think is changed. It's shocking, but that's what happens. So a ChatGPT will, as I say, pretend it will generate millions of different individuals, fictional individuals, who are then posting things on Facebook and on Twitter and on Truth Social and on LinkedIn and so on and so forth, which even in the act of debunking change the nature of society's perceptions. And when that is done with the express objective of creating discord, it's much easier to break things than it is to build them. Then you have altered society. Let's take a gross example that we all know about. Donald Trump talking about ingesting bleach as a way to fight the pandemic, the COVID-19 strain. But that's a lunatic thing to say. But we now have millions of people cheering at rallies in support of this lunatic idea. That's what happens millions of times over.
That's all we have time for here this morning. Thanks very much indeed. That's Glenn and Alexis joining us on NDTV to talk about the disinformation being sowed allegedly by Iran, China, and of course, Russia.